On from the last video 21. When I talk about this Indian rapist of the woman who gave birth to me coming to nearly murder me, track me down in Kathmandu along with the woman, and then repeatedly here, in Birmingham, once he tried to come to get me, identified me to his pimp thugs, and that's why this pimp Int'L dyad complex coming after me. Obviously, now I understand well. This guy is really powerful, Indian Int'L, and Int'L is the real state, as I talk about much in my Twitter threads. Int'L security, police, pimp, criminals continuum, they are the real state, they hold the real power. I mean, coming to try to get me in Birmingham on 21st December, Friday evening, by this place, 9 Brindy Place. 2018. He would know what I would be, what time. That's incredible. So, and then he appeared sometimes after 4 December 2022, when I wrote, all my doing, after all, is product of rape by an Indian, quite an outcome of rape by an Indian, and he tried to come talk to me right outside Govan Cross, Greg's sandwich shop. So that in itself is very not only emblematic but actually factual. The state of this, as I write in Twitter thread, non-state of Nepal. False state. It literally is. Otherwise, the horror of the scale wouldn't have happened with the prostitute and me abused. Starting with 2004 itself, the Int'L op on me and then how sadistically racist way it was done throughout my stay in UK. But the very fact that a woman, already married woman of a government employee with grown-up children, was raped by an Indian. I don't know what the rape occurred within Nepal or Indian territory. Either way, and nothing could be done about it. And also, how striking it is that the woman's brother, the eldest brother, her younger brother, but among the brothers, youngest, Sushil Pyakuril, became the biggest human rights champion of the country. And it was all hushed, never brought out. It was practical, I understand that. But after I started getting abused, when I was chased out of the house, I met him once outside. I paid for his food, coffee. I was struggling through all this. He never told me. And then, that is again another issue. It was hushed. He could never tell me. I once asked the woman who gave birth to me. At the time, my mother telling me I was born only because she couldn't have had a proper abortion. And he and his wife looked at each other and just said, "Oh, she just said because of anger, that's it." They were still trying to hide it. That too I understand. But, this whole saga, again, I mean, going back to late 2017, when the woman and I was tried to be murdered by this Indian, coming out with his gourd at night in a black tinted window SUV, just tried to run us over, and nothing could be done about it. And see, the woman wouldn't be able to tell her brother. Again, it has to be hushed. So then, you know, what all the investments on human rights done to these little countries, this society is still mired in, the old social mores, traditions, where social standing, caste, and class comes first over human sufferings. I mean, this man literally made his name. I mean, I've written much about it in Twitter. I mean, he actually lived off his sister's rape, in a way. I mean, not in a way. I mean, actually, I mean that's the reason he was mooching her, mooching her. I mean, he's moving to Kathmandu, as I've talked about. His sister stealing money from the U.S. aid, for which I was tortured and repeatedly murdered, sought to be repeatedly murdered till I was grown up. I mean, young man. I mean, trying to murder me never stopped. I mean, aside from the fact that I was product of rape by an Indian, also because I was witness to stealing of money by USAID, and that money brought him to Kathmandu, and he made name, became human rights commissioner, and then despite that too, him being human rights commissioner, this Int'L op was still on. Again, like when he came to visit UK in March or April 2005. When I was with him and I would go buy coffee, I mean, another, very illustrative thing about him. He knew I was a student. I was living on stipend, but he would make me pay. But anyway, I mean, that's the way he is. I was charged 70 pounds for two coffees like that. I mean, I couldn't tell him everything because I mean, this is a pathetic person. A non-entity just chosen by his party boss, Madhav Nepal, to work on human rights field, hence him becoming human rights activist. And his human rights NGO, INSEC, was just money channeling operation anyway. I mean, the donors would know about it, and it's just to, you know, make the communist pink operation. I mean, there's no way they would know about it. So anyway, these things. I mean, I'm having to. I mean, wrap my head around it. I mean, this Indian rapist, how daring! He's already very connected, intel, powerful person. He could track us down, but he knew the brothers. I mean, another brother, Suod Pyakurel, and also still youngest brother, Suman Pyakurel, who became the member of Upper House of Parliament. And I don't know whether that time he was already. Yes, I think he was already member of the Parliament. I still try to murder the woman just like that on the street with me, and try to come get me here, and still the intel. So, but that aside, I'm still trying to digest it. I mean, how? I mean, I was born of a criminal, actually, criminal rapist. He was rapist, but turned out to be murderous criminal. I mean, that is. I mean, it's getting to the point of being a bit emotional, so I stopped there. But anyway, I mean, it doesn't affect me. But at the same time, what a disgusting uh, discovery, disgusting. I mean, repulsive thing to know that you're actually born of a criminal rapist. Not only rapist, but criminal murderous rapist who was not hesitating trying to murder yourself. So, so that aside, one more thing I need to put it out in this video is I talked about, because I mean I come to that because that again, that one thing, leading to another kind of thing. I mean, it was a daring intelligence operation, killing of this popular leader, the communist leader. I mean, I don't identify him much as communist because he had already talked about multi-party democracy and liberal. I think he was a more philosophical kind of person, and he would have, I think, even changed the party name and become social democrat kind of thing. But I mean, he was a decent person, and he was murdered just because he was so popular. And then, that was the thing, just like Royal Massacre in Nepal, people talked about. So in the last video, I confirmed via this royalist bureaucrats that I went to meeting with. Uh, Quite a fate. I mean, in a meeting to launch a formal intellectual group to provide intellectual support legitimacy to Gyanendra's regime, the war of Nepal. And just because I had said, he was going for direct rule was foretold because Royal Massacre brought him to power. I had to face all this hell and horror for the last 18 years. But anyway, in that meeting, this royal bureaucrat, insider person confirming Sher Bahadur Deuba and Khargowali, I mean, approving of it, being in the loop of this murder plan, them being foreign intelligence assets, murdering Madan Bhandari, and linking that up with, I've written in Twitter thread, because I mean I've studied this guy. I mean I've written about it. I've gone to his flat before he became big and powerful, very austere living, and from that on, I mean he really, I mean his rise to power has been just phenomenal. I mean, meteoric rise, as they say. So, I mean, right after murder of Madan Bhandari. So, I mean, I try to connect that in the Twitter thread as well. And he's criminal. I mean, he's a veritable criminal. I mean, his politics criminal conduct. I mean, everybody knows about it, and they just don't talk about it. Because, I mean, he's the alternative power compared to the other political parties. So, and then my former criminal nun family happened to be his disciple. I don't know. I mean, this moronic simpleton former uncles of mine would not be privy to all this insider information. So they just, I mean, they were not up to that level to understand it. So they were, I mean, they were obviously aloof of it. But anyway, so uh, I talked about a few videos back. Devraj Dal also confirming that Nepali Congress leader Chakrabas Tola, I mean, the way he put it, India murdered him. But he had suffered a stroke and he had paralysis, but he said that could be done too. I mean, I've talked about it in the video. And at that time, I had asked Devraj Dal, so do you think India also murdered? I mean, he'd already told me India and America would murder any rising star in Nepali firmament. But I mean, I was trying to reconfirm because he told me. And by the way, that by that time I had been already wrecked. I mean, the marriage had collapsed. I mean, I'd come back from a short assignment, UN assignment abroad. My money was still drained. I mean, directly drained from a bank account. I had to keep quiet about it, and then double charged everywhere. So that never ceased. Right after I went back to Nepal in 2006, that continued, and I joined UN. That continued in Kathmandu. I mean, they just drained my money, but I'll talk about it later in detail. But anyway, when he was like really distressed and literally crying, I mean his politics intelligence work appeared to be geared towards more monarchist, royalist, Nepali nationalist. So for being Nepali nationalist, I mean that is nothing nationalist about. I mean, when you are Intel person of foreign owned by foreign intel agencies, you're not nationalist anymore. But it's still, Nepalis have that deep-seated resentment of India. I mean, they've never gotten over the fact that they had to lose two-thirds of their territory, expanding almost close to Kashmir in the west, and linking up with Bhutan in the east. So that thing comes through, and then also never colonized, and also racial factor too. I mean, compared to plain dark Indian, Nepalis look different. So, uh, he was anguished and almost as I've talked about, crying, about saying a very good nationalist leader, Chakrabastola, is being murdered by India. And I said, do you think that India also murdered Madan Bhandari? He had literally jumped out of his chair, and given that exaggerated Nepali mountain Hindus, mostly Brahmin Kshatris, I mean, mocking, kind of sarcasm, but I mean, pity, snigger, reconfirming. I mean, it was such a pathetic thing that it happened, kind of gesture like this, like that. The, he said straight, Madan Bhandari was murdered by Cape Kadgwali. He said that. And and I said, is that really the truth? He said, of course, it is the truth. Kadgwali, in Nepali, it said, Madan Bhandari to Kadgwali maar diya, like that, with that gesture, mouth. That means he done such a pathetic act, this Kadgwali, that he murdered his own leader. I mean, he'd also confirmed by saying that he was international Int'L asset. But I mean, he didn't say it, but I mean, it's obvious. So, so uh, uh, as I've written about in the Twitter thread as well. So it's a longitudinal Intel project for this guy Karbuli. He wooed the woman of the murdered man, Madan Bhandari, Vidya Bhandari, and and they had affair. I mean, this was confirmed by this again, the woman who gave birth to me, her younger sister, immediately below her, um, Bina Aryal's son, the criminal family who tried to murder me over and over again, and the Bina Aryal, the exaggerated, straight from Bollywood villain, exaggerated villain. Kundan Aryal confirmed me in 2001 itself, because I mean, I had gone to After Royal Massacre, I think, 2002. I'm not too sure about that. His parents had gone to America to visit his younger brother, another criminal who tried to murder me repeatedly when I was a child. And I mean, we'll talk about that later. But Kundan Aryal, I mean, among the family members, I mean, because this is a communist family and Kadgwali, the communist leader, so family friend, and whenever you would go to family, wherever the family houses are in the southern town of Biratnagar, you would stay with the family, unlike other leaders staying in hotels. So very close. So there was kind of rumor because they were always close, Vidya Bhandari and Kadgwali. So what's going on? I mean, always close. I mean, he never separated. So perhaps she was talking. I mean, hinting at even the bedroom said, but he said even the children in our family, meaning young children at the time, they were very young, of his uncles, Suman Pyakurel and Subodh Pyakurel, they were living in Braddon. They confirmed uh, that they are couple. So they are indeed couple. That's what he said. So again, as I've written about in Twitter, this Khargowali, long-term Int'L asset. I mean, he's allowed to pretend nationalist, but I mean, everything is done as proves that he's been Indian and American, perhaps. I mean, obviously American too. Int'L asset for a long time. And I mean, it's very obvious that he had this project after having the husband murdered, or the wife, and turned her into mistress. That's what it is. Kundan Naryal confirmed it. And Kundan Naryal is the guy who later became a press secretary of Kargowali. So, that aside, uh, one last thing I'll add on this video is when I was, I made bargain with the devil. I mean, within the family, Suod Pyakurel is the only person who never ever let me know that I was Indian bastard, a product of rape by an Indian. I mean, he was loving to me. I mean, overall, he had his limitations within the family, but It didn't matter. He was very close to the guy who was the prime minister at the time, Kargowoli, when I was flying to UK from Kathmandu on the morning of 21st August 2018. After he dropped me in the airport, was a Nepali policeman who came in and tried to stop me. And then they didn't allow me to get into the pre-departure lounge. I mean, departure lounge. I mean, after checking in, immigration checking in, and then um, going through the security check. And then they made me wait on the another extra lounge, and there an army man had come with, I think it was a gun visible in, I mean, it was kind of a messenger bag, carry-on bag, something jutting out. I could see. I mean the safe inside the bag. I mean it was gun, and then there was some Int'L person within, and they followed me all the way to Bangkok. So I mean on the on the surface, again, human rights, development, all that investment. I mean, you know, by the West and within the country, the performance of democracy, but underneath, I mean, not even underneath, such openly, it didn't matter that I was, and then I had deliberately gone to meet this guy Razan Bhattarai, who was the political advisor, de facto national security advisor of Kargowoli, that time prime minister, another rapist, both rapists. It didn't matter. I mean, entire country turned into rapist. 400 people brought to my room alone. By the time we left for Australia, me and the prostitute, 2,500 plus, entire Kathmandu city, who's who. So I had deliberately gone to meet them so that I would, I could project that I know these people. I mean, it didn't matter. It wouldn't matter because Kargowoli, again, being a criminal himself, he would have given go ahead to get me, stop me, perhaps. But still, I mean, I was just astounded. I mean, Suvat Pyakurali, human rights organization chair, dropped me in the airport. But right after he dropped me in the airport, a police boy. I mean, I'll put it in Twitter later with a picture. He's become now head of the Kathmandu police unit, Kathmandu Valley police unit. He came in and he directed another police boy to try to stop me, but I just brushed them aside and then I went in. I mean, I was not going to be stopped. But upstairs, departure lounge, they tried to stop me. So I'll end the video for this iteration just now, and then I'll, of course, post more videos later.